Thank you very much. Let me start with saying that Elma and Christian really regret that they couldn't be here. I am, however, honored to be here, so hopefully I can express the same enthusiasm about our project. I'm going to tell you something about Test Site Rotterdam, which is an ongoing project that we do in the center of Rotterdam, and the name will become clear later on in the presentation. Here you have an overview. Do we have the pointer thing? Never mind. Of the center of Rotterdam, in which that center is, it's the Schieblock. You see the new central station being built, and this is an image of the center of Rotterdam before the war. And this was also the same location. It's the heart of the city. It's the cultural heart of the city. It's a thriving heart of the city. It's lively, and this is what the city was a couple of years ago. Thank you very much. And of course, that had some reasons. Like after the war, Rotterdam was reconstructed along modernist planning principles with a large emphasis on infrastructure and also large-scale infrastructure. The separation of zones, separation of functions, and now I can show you, this is the area that we're talking about. In the 80s and 90s, it was branded as a central business district. And the next image is, I really like it because it shows the discrepancy between planning and urban reality. And this is actually what is kind of the focus of the story I'm going to tell you. On the background, you see the large-scale skyscrapers, and on the foreground, you can see, well, urban reality as we face it. This is an image shot from our office. Elma and Christian started the office in 2001 in this building where this picture is taken from. And as years go by, they saw the development or the non-development of the area. And that has to do also with the large vacancy rate going on. The financial crisis had a huge impact. And this is what vacancy looks like. And still there was this big planning, big plans going on for 200-meter high skyscrapers in the center of Rotterdam. There's a lot of visions going on, and the urge became like, can we think of, all these plans weren't materializing anytime soon, and everybody knew they weren't going to materialize, but still everybody was waiting and waiting for, well, all these nice things to be built. And in the meantime, this was the urban reality, and we as a design office thought, what can we do with this condition? And one of the first things we did was start the dépendance and take action. And the dépendance was an initiative to kind of, there was another development in the center of Rotterdam where all cultural institutions were kind of being moved out of the center towards the periphery in order to kickstart new building projects over there, which kind of hollowed out the cultural heart of the city. And we thought, isn't it nice, there's all this vacancy here, can we make a place where all these cultural institutions can return to the city and kind of keep in contact with the city center? So we talked to the owner of the building and asked, like, the space is empty, it's boarded up, can we do something about it, can we use it? And after quite some talks with the owner, he kind of agreed. He said, as long as you don't really mess it up any further, then I'm fine with it. And with the office, with crowbars and sledgehammers, we kind of stripped up, we opened up the plinth, and we started programming there. So we organized lectures and exhibitions and debates, and there was a restaurant there. So a lot of different things going on, and which kind of gave us it kind of informed our way of working, because with very small, like little means and very small scale action, we kind of saw the difference that it made. Like we were used to making large scale plans, which didn't happen, and this really directly influenced on a very small scale, but still, it kind of like the place became alive again, and that was kind of informative for the way we worked as an office. Still, the owner said he wanted to demolish the building anyway, in his words, to give a signal to the market that these new developments were going to happen. And later on, he told us that developers are kind of narrow-minded. These were his words. They can see the value in an empty plot of land, but they don't necessarily see a value in a decrepit old building, which architects might like. But, so we started again to question this process. Like if you demolish this building, then for the next 10, 15, 20 years, nothing's going to happen anyway. Who knows? And isn't there another way to use this space and use this place? Yeah, that's more interesting. So we started to think about a concept that we called the schiblok, and together with the young developer, we started to work on a business case to transform this building into an urban laboratory, as a kind of yeah, creative hub, as a lot of things nowadays, but then with this emphasis on this urban laboratory. So we wanted to get people and get offices that were kind of having the same urge to do something about the condition, and really wanted to yeah, invest also with the building and with the surroundings. So that's where the urban laboratory came from. So we started this business case, which it wasn't really designed, it was more an Excel sheet. Like if we rent out this space for this, like it was 90 euros a month a year, sorry, 90 euros per square meter per year, instead of the 240, I think, that was current at that time. And we rent it out for 5 years, then you make as much money as you would if you would turn it into a parking place. Which in our view, like this, another gaping hole in the city of Rotterdam. Rotterdam has a history of gaping holes, and it's not good for city life, it's not good for the city. So there must be other interesting ways. So after another round of talks, the owner said, okay, it's fine if you get 70% rented out, go ahead. So we started to play developer, we started to play real estate agent, and we opened an info center in the plinth of the block, trying to get people to yeah, rent space here. And then we noticed that our background as designers was really helpful, because we could visualize the new condition. We could make nice shiny models, which kind of were different from the reality at that time. And we also, yeah, in the end we found there was really a good niche. So a lot of people wanted to rent an office there, and with some like microcredits from several small banks, we started to redevelop the schiblok. And then the alderman wanted to be present, of course, and the owner, and everybody was happy. And with like very little means, we gave the building a slight lift, and we started to develop it further. And again, it showed us the impact that, well, a relatively small intervention can have on public life and on the city. And it made us think about yeah, the bigger image. This is by no means a literal image. This is meant to be provocative, and it's indicative of our way of thinking. Instead of this tabula rasa approach where you demolish everything in one go, and not demolish only physical structures, but also social and economic structures that already are present. Isn't it more interesting to kind of build on top of what you already have? Obviously, anybody seeing this would know that it wouldn't stay up. So that's not really the point. It's about literally building on top and building and taking it further. So one of the means of actually making city and trying to produce the city, we started the Fabrique Urbaine, which was like a workshop where we tried to get rest material from building sites and combine that with furniture makers and model builders, and get schools involved, giving traineeships to people, and kind of making this close the circuits of economy and production and education, and try to, and in the end, also produce, again, create liveliness, but also produce furniture that, in its turn, kind of invokes use. This was done all in the name of temporality, which made a lot of things possible. So people are less afraid if something is temporary, and even a developer can think like, okay, well, I'm going to build my high-rise anyway later on. At one point, Elma and Christian became curators of the International Architectural Biennial, which had as a theme making city. So very, very roughly, how do you make city in times of crisis when there's no one party who is capable of making large-scale master plans anymore? So we tried to develop this way of thinking that we've done with the dépendance and schiblok further and into a bigger context. And this is one of the images. With everything we do, we kind of look like what's already out there and what are everybody's ideas and plans. And this was one of the images that the municipality made, where you can see the main route into the city is from the central station southwards to the Lijnbaan. But they really envisioned this kind of stream of people also eastwards, where here's the Schiblok. But yeah, the reality is more, well, is different, where everybody just moves straight downwards and everybody's neglecting this area. So this was kind of the main ideas that we have. If you really want to make those ambitions come true, then you need to reroute the networks and you need to close the circuits. So a logical conclusion for us, if there's not one party, and Holland has a very large history with large-scale master planning. If you only need to think of, well, I think some nice examples have been shown already, but if that model doesn't function anymore, when there's not one housing corporation or one municipality or one developer that can build rows and rows and rows of houses of very high towers in one go, then an obvious alternative might be a more collaborative approach, where you work together with a lot of people and see what are our goals, what are our aims, and can we together achieve something that one party alone can't. And also work more short-term, well, not short-term, but incremental, build on what is already there and not build something like a very large project in one go. And this image kind of illustrates the thing that we rebelled against with the demolition of the Schiblok, that if you demolish something, then value is lost, but also liveliness is lost and the urban fabric is lost. Well, as you build on top of something or be more selective in what you demolish, build further, maybe improve, then those values are being kept and you can actually create value as you go along. And maybe in the end, you can achieve like the same building volume, but in a way that is in the long run more worthwhile. And we're not saying that we know how to do that. We don't know we have all the answers. So that was why we called it a test site Rotterdam. If no one knows exactly how to do it, let's just test it. Let's just start and get something going. So one-to-one models, they can fail, they can work. If it works, then it's nice. You can build further, you can create something more. If it doesn't work, then you need to think of something else or forget about the idea entirely. That's the idea of the test site, by creating small-scale, maybe temporary interventions, getting toward a system that actually works and to an end condition. So we developed a test site, and we had all these different, I think first it was 21 different projects that somehow tackled this idea of making city in times of crisis. But in order not to to have all these different nice, interesting, small-scale projects, we thought it's also important, or it's even more important, to keep thinking about the bigger picture. So what, in the end, do we want to achieve? And in this case, that was a more connected neighborhood to connect different parts of the city. So we envisioned a route from the central station all the way to the north of the city, which is disconnected by big infrastructure, and pull these parts of the city together, and by doing that, create an influx of people and also connecting all these different interventions that we were proposing. So, create a public backbone. So we had these different projects, and we started to visualize them. And one of the key ingredients of this project was the Luchtsingel, which is a wooden pedestrian bridge that that crosses all these barriers that exist and connects these things, but also connects all these different projects. It's about creating addresses. It's about creating like a logical route in order to get to this place and to all these projects. And one key element is also that this idea of this connection wasn't ours. This was also based on this collaborative approach that we looked like, hey, the municipality wants this connection, but what we did was kind of turn the logic around. They thought, let's first make high-rise, let's first make real estate, and then invest in public space. And the idea was to turn that around. So first invest in public space, get people there, get people to know the place, and then maybe you can start building and start constructing. So we obviously didn't have any money, so we started a crowdfunding campaign. For 25 euros, you could buy a plank for the bridge. You could put your name on it, or your wedding date, or your children's names, whatever. And that way, we started to generate money in order to finance this bridge. And we visualized it again to show people, hey, it's going to be, it can be very nice. And we really raised a significant amount of money with that. Not every cent. But then another initiative came along called the Stadsinitiatief, which was by the municipality, a kind of competition in order to involve the citizens of Rotterdam more with like the city production. And the idea was that everybody could enter their idea to make the city better, and then in the end the citizens of Rotterdam could vote for their favorite initiative, and the winner would get money to realize their ambitions. So because we were already working together with so many people, everybody really came to our aid and started helping us, and we started this campaign in order with a lot of different people and with volunteers, and tried to get to win this competition and this money. And in the end, we got the award from the mayor. And because we already had this crowdfunding going on, the day after we could immediately start building, even though we didn't have the money from the municipality. And when you start building, when stuff starts to happen, then this has an effect on other people. They see, hey, this is interesting, and then you get some dynamic going on. So we made this route all the way through the area. And this is one of the projects that was on the Luchthaven. It's called the Biergarten. Which is a reference and an homage to this lovely spatial and also maybe sociological typology, but also to our long-standing German relations. And it's a very nice sample of what you can achieve with very little means, but a lot of effort and a lot of love from some people. So we had this idea, we need to make a nice place here. It's the sunniest place in the city. And with beer and some furniture that we made, we actually created a very nice space there. So we built a bridge, and we built it in phases, so people could really see, hey, it's being built and it's getting somewhere. Here you can see the names, some people that contributed to the project. And on top of the building, this is another one of the projects belonged to the test site, a roof garden, which called the Dakakker, which is a test on how to make flat roofs, all these modernist flat roofs in Rotterdam, productive. So to go beyond some kind of these nice mossy grasses, we really wanted to produce something that it was actually edible or sellable. And also here, it's really an example of the test site. So in more ways than one, because we really work together with a lot of people, volunteers, and it's really about the business model, trying to get to selling off produce, to pay for the upkeep of the roof, renting out the space that's the pavilion that's next to it. And in that way, also testing different plants and vegetables. We really didn't know what would grow there, so we just started in doing it. And it grew out. There's also an educational project involved here. And it grew out to be a really lovely place in the heart of the city. Here you can see the Schiebok with the bridge sticking out. And here you can see still the kind of building envelopes hovering above the area. Which is still the current urban master plan. So another of the projects was a park that we built, also together with a lot of people, and really literally built it with a lot of people. In some kind of choreography, we kind of made this park underneath the bridge, and there was an opening. And this illustrates another part of the things that we find important, is that it's not only building, it's also about programming. So if you only build stuff, then you don't do anything, then it's still going to be a very dead spot. So we really also focus on programming and keeping the place alive. So something else that we learned was that you shouldn't, the strategy that we're going, you shouldn't just only build a bridge, you shouldn't only program. No, there's a lot of different things that you need to take into account. So we had a couple of strategies running along, creating a route, creating places, densifying, but also the business case. And we kind of, that's the strategy of the test site. As I talked about programming, one of the things that we did was, together with the theater group, there was a play on the roof of an old train station, which is the destination of the Luchtsingel. And here you can see in the background the building, Hofplein, the old Shell headquarters, which has been empty vacant for a lot of years now. From the outside you don't see it, so I talked about temporariness, I talked about this is very, very, very short term. For 24 hours, we programmed every floor of the building in a different program. So there was a campsite, there was a restaurant, there was a yoga studio, a roller disco. There was a lot of sports and the elevator going up and down. And this had two objectives. One, you show people vacancy, like from the outside you don't see it, so people are really astounded that this much functional space could just be left empty. And you show the potential of the space. So yeah, you show that you can do stuff with it, which got some really nice reactions. As I was like, this idea of the test site is also the idea of permanent temporality, as we like to call it. So we call it temporary, but we have this hope that it evolves and it continues to grow. And if it works, if a test works, that you can build on top of it. And it also, the main idea is that you can plan for everything. So we had this basic idea, this vision, what we should do, and we had some ideas of how to get there. But going along, we really noticed there was a lot of people coming to us as well with nice ideas, and that this framework that I created allowed us to kind of integrate all these ideas. So in this scheme of all the projects that we've been doing, a lot of it's spin-offs, so things that we haven't even planned. And one really nice example is Annabelle, which is next to the beer garden. But to me, this is really a nice example of this permanent temporality, because it's also a cafe, a restaurant, but everything is slightly nicer. It's slightly more permanent, if you will, and it really shows us that things can grow out of well, nothing is not the right word, but things can grow. And here you see a top view of the area behind our office with the beer garden and Annabelle that I just showed you. And this was a place that, when we started our office here, was literally a zero tolerance area by the municipality. And there were, I think, 3 shootings in a month at a certain point. This is what it came from, and this is what it is now. And that to me is a nice illustration of, well, that design can do something, can change something. And I think that's the end of my story. Thank you very much.